Over this past weekend, observant Jews fasted for an important day on the Jewish calendar known as Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is a day of mourning for the loss of both temples and other calamities in Jewish history. Over the last decade, an increasing number of Jews had wanted to ascend the Temple Mount on Tisha B'Av. It seems only natural that they visit the exact place that once housed both temples. From 2003 to 2014, the Israeli police often closed the Temple Mount to Jewish visitors on Tisha B'Av. The police said the closures were out of concern for public safety. If Jews were allowed to visit the mount and Muslims harassed them too heavily, the standard procedure for the patrolling Israeli police was to clear the area of non-Muslim visitors. Their priority was to preserve order and protect public safety, but the consequences were disproportionately shouldered by Jewish worshippers. As many of you know, however, the temperature on the Temple Mount is changing. This past Sunday morning, 1,600 Jewish pilgrims gathered at the Mughrabi Gate to enter the Temple Mount at 7:30 a.m. Well into their fast, they stood waiting in the August heat. For hours, they were refused entrance. The official word from Israeli police was that there would be no Jewish entry to the Temple Mount for the whole of the day because of the high potential for friction. Prime Minister Netanyahu said he was in favor of Jews entering the Temple Mount, but he left the ultimate decision to the Israeli police. This year, Tisha B'Av coincided with the three-day Islamic holiday Eid al-Adha, or Festival of the Sacrifice. For Muslims, the holiday marks the end of the Hajj season to Mecca and also marks Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, which according to Muslim tradition was not Isaac, but Ishmael. Normally, Israel does not allow non-Muslims to ascend the Temple Mount on Islamic holidays, but with this also being a very important Jewish holiday connected to the temple, many religious Israelis wanted to challenge that norm. To agitate the situation, the Jordanian Waqf encouraged all mosques in Jerusalem to be closed, so the only place for Muslims to pray was the Temple Mount. They even postponed the normal morning hour of prayer from 6:30 to 7:30 so it would exactly conflict with the time that Jews were supposed to be permitted entrance. As 70,000 Muslims flooded the mount through their own entrances, clashes began to break out between the Israeli police and the Muslim worshippers. It wasn't clear at first if Jews would be permitted entrance at all. The mayor of Jerusalem called out for the police to exercise your authority and do not capitulate to violence. Around 10:30 a.m., the Israeli police put on riot gear and opened the Mughrabi Gate for Jewish entry. Jews were allowed to enter in small groups and restricted to one part of the mount under protection of the Israeli police. The Waqf continued their incitement, encouraging Muslims to throw chairs at the Jewish pilgrims and yelling Allah Akbar. All told, Jewish visits to the site were only allowed 1 hour and then closed again, and later opened for another hour and closed again. Only a fraction of the Jewish pilgrims in line were actually able to make it onto the Mount. But the Temple Mount movement is taking this past Sunday as a victory. First, Jewish visits have almost never been allowed on Muslim holidays. Second, the number of visitors this year was the highest ever on record. But most importantly, they salute the decision of the Israeli police to not reward riots and terror, but challenge the Islamic Waqf's increasing incitement. Only 5 months ago, the Waqf's membership was expanded to include Palestinian leaders, and ever since they have become increasingly more radical. The example set by the Israeli police on Sunday shows they are not going to continue rewarding Islamic incitement or cower to their rioters. According to many witnesses on the Mount that day, the few Jewish worshippers who were permitted entrance under armed guard were also allowed to pray, an action entirely banned under the status quo. And as we all know, prayer is the real revolution. Shabbat Shalom.